Cuban Minister of Foreign Affairs Bruno Rodriguez Parrilla held a press conference before national and international media where he referred to the aggressive foreign policy of the United States government against the island. The government shutdown in the United States reached its 11th day, while the social and economic crisis facing federal workers worsens. And the Israeli parliament approved a plan for total control over the West Bank despite the agreement with the Palestinian resistance Hamas. Hello and welcome to From the South. I'm Alejandra Garcia from teleSUR studios in Havana, Cuba. We begin with the news. Cuban Minister of Foreign Affairs Bruno Rodriguez Parrilla held a press conference before national and international media where he referred to the aggressive foreign policy of the United States government against the island. The minister affirmed that a few days before the United Nations General Assembly considers Cuba's report on the need to lift the blockade, it is necessary to denounce the campaign of misinformation and coercion unleashed by the United States to prevent international support for ending this unjust policy. In this regard, Bruno Rodriguez denounced that the U.S. government made public several documents that use false rhetoric to accuse Cuba of being a threat to international peace. As demonstrated in the recent general debate of the United Nations General Assembly, the international community has spoken out about the violation of human rights constituted by the blockade. In this context, the Cuban foreign minister addressed the misinformation campaign from the United States aimed at countries that have historically supported the lifting of the economic blockade.
He has a fraudulent approach that on one side they try to prove, and it's one of the subtitles, the Cuban regime does not deserve your support. This is directed to governments that always have voted for decades, some with over 30 years, in favor of the elimination of the blockade, of the re-establishment of international law, the end of a crime, of genocide, in the framework of the corresponding convention, and that as an overwhelming majority of the member states of the United Nations that reflect also the thinking and position overwhelmingly in a majority of U.S. citizens that are the ones paying the emissaries, the U.S. diplomats that are involved in this management, that also reflect the majority opinion of Cubans that live in the United States, all of which at the same time are victims of this aggression policy and hostilities and blockade.
In addition, the Cuban diplomat denounced the threats and lies that the United States government uses to justify maintaining the blockade.
Does not feel the need to argue its seriousness with the government. They believe that the brutal pressure and acts of threats are more than enough. I read the document and I realize that they don't really want to convince anyone. They only want to intimidate and pressure. It is not the blockade the cause of issues of problems of the Cuban economy. I have proven with data, and I'm willing to do so again. We are willing to debate on this issue. Experts are also willing to do this, Cuban experts in our economy, to show that the blockade is the main cause of the issues of our economy and the main obstacle for our development.
And now we go to Venezuela, where the people is taken to the streets to celebrate the first two saints of the history of the country, José Gregorio Hernández, the doctor of the poor, and Mother Carmen Rendiles. Let's recall that on October 19, 2025, Venezuela experienced a pivotal moment in its religious and cultural history, which was the canonization of its first two saints. The solemn ceremony took place at St. Peter's Basilica in the Vatican, presided over by Pope Leo XIV himself, marking a milestone in the spiritual life of the nation by elevating these two great Venezuelans to the universal altar of the Catholic Church. Both saints reflected deeply rooted values in Venezuelan identity, solidarity, compassion, and strength in the face of adversity. The canonization, let's recall, of José Gregorio Hernández and Mother Carmen Rendiles not only elevates their legacy globally, but also reaffirms the spiritual richness of the country. And now we are going to stay in Venezuela, where from October 22nd to 24th, the Expo Forum for Productive Venezuela 2030 will be held to promote the sustainable productivity of the country. This event will combine keynote speeches, business roundtables, networking meetings, and also a trade show featuring more than 100 companies and 45 panelists with national and international experience in this context. And also the Vice President of the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela, Delcy Rodriguez, highlighted the economic growth of more than 8.5% that the nation experienced in the last months of the year, despite the constant threats that Venezuela faces. Rodriguez also addressed that production in the state-owned enterprise sector grew by almost 129%, while private production grew by 41%, emphasizing on the need to join efforts between sectors to guarantee Venezuela's economic security.
We have been growing for 18 consecutive quarters. Nothing has stopped us. Just imagine everything that has happened in 2021, 2022, 23, 24, and this year. How many actions seeking to disrupt the stability of the country, disrupt economic, political, and social tranquility, and Venezuela continues to stand tall. You continue to stand tall. No one has brought us to our knees. No one has undermined our capacity, our determination, our will to keep moving forward.
And Venezuelan Vice President Delcy Rodriguez said that the Bolivarian nation experienced an economic growth of 8.71% during the first quarter of 2025. Let's listen.
There are those who think they can go around the world invading, destroying, looting, and sparing. That is not going to happen in Venezuela, and the answer that the so-called economic agents have given you, but you are really the economic actors in Venezuela. That is not going to happen in our country. That is not going to happen. What is happening is this economic miracle, where we show growth, where the third quarter of the economy, according to the official statistics of the Central Bank of Venezuela, already indicate an 8.71% growth and project 8.5% for the end of the year 2025. That is the truth, that nothing stops us. We are only focused on a single path, which is a productive Venezuela, projecting towards 2030, 2040, and 2050.
And on Wednesday, during the 598th session of the Russian Federation Council, senators ratified the treaty between Russia and Venezuela on strategic partnership and cooperation. The agreement was presented by the first vice chairman of the Federation Council Committee on Foreign Affairs, Sergei Kislayek, confirming what Presidents Vladimir Putin and Nicolás Maduro established during their meeting in Moscow in May. According to the Senate's decision, Venezuela is a consistent ally and like-minded partner that, like Russia, seeks to establish a more just world order. The principles of this treaty establish, among other aspects, the coordination of the bilateral agenda, the development of the resilience of national economies, the creation of an independent Russian-Venezuelan financial structure, and the consolidation of relations in strategic areas. And Russia once again reaffirmed its support for Venezuela in the face of growing U.S. hostility. Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov met with Venezuelan Ambassador Rafael Salazar Velázquez in Moscow to assess the bilateral strategic partnership and existing agreements between the two countries. During the meeting, the Foreign Minister presented the Venezuelan diplomat with the Order of Friendship and reiterated Russia's commitment to peace in Latin America and the Caribbean. And now we have a short break coming up. But first, remember you can join us on TikTok at teleSUR English, where you'll find news in different formats, news updates, and much more. We'll be right back. Stay with us. Welcome back to From the South. During a meeting of the Council of Ministers, Colombian President Gustavo Petro denounced the United States' interventionist actions against the country. During the meeting, President Petro condemned the U.S. actions in the region and their campaign to discredit the national fight against drugs. The president also declared that Colombia will not support U.S. intervention in the Caribbean, nor will it lend itself to the murder of young Venezuelans. And in this sense, the president denounced Trump's oil greed in Venezuela and condemned Colombians who want an invasion of the brotherly country. In turn, the president called on the world to help in the face of U.S. aggressions and explained the disastrous consequences that an invasion would bring to Colombia. In this context, President Gustavo Petro also explained why it is impossible for Venezuela to be the biggest exporter of cocaine, as claimed by unfounded reports from Washington and some Latin American agents of the far right.
¿Podría ser Venezuela el principal exportador de cocaína?
How could Venezuela be the main exporter of cocaine? Through something they call the Cartel de los Soles, and that by abusing their function, congressmen, because the one who directs international relations in Colombia is the president, try to revive what does not exist. From there, no cocaine leaves for Venezuela, other than from Catatumbo to the Gulf of Maracaibo. Part of what is produced in Catatumbo can no longer leave because the distances between the Green and Venezuela, which are close to each other, are covered with abandoned coca leaf crops. Cocaine can only leave for Venezuela in Apure, which borders Arauca, where we know that planes with cocaine leave if they are sent by plane from the airports in Bogota. Mr. Holman Morris, investigate. The CIA and the DEA gives us the maps of the routes of aircraft or small planes from Apure to the other side of Arauca and beyond, following the Colombian border outward, but not the routes of aircraft between the airports of Bogota and Arauca.
And now we go to Ecuador, where the leading indigenous organization, CONAIE, has accused President Daniel Noboa's administration of committing unprecedented human rights violations during recent security operations. In a statement, CONAIE alleged that government forces used excessive violence, including tear gas and rubber bullets against civilians in indigenous communities, resulting in dozens of injuries and arbitrary detentions. The group claims these actions violate both national laws and international human rights agreements. The organization reported at least 50 injuries, including critical cases, and 31 detentions, alongside alleged interference with medical care. CONAIE has called for international scrutiny and is preparing to escalate the case to global human rights bodies. And we stay in Ecuador, where the Ministry of the Interior published a report stating that over the last 9 months, more than 6,700 homicides were committed in the country, meaning that one person was murdered every 58 minutes. The official report confirmed that the number of homicides recorded in 2025 is the highest in the nation's history. And in this regard, the 6,797 homicides recorded between January and September 2025 exceed by 36.76% those that occurred for the same period in 2024. This information indicated that an average of 25 crimes are committed daily in Ecuador. In addition, the ministry's report also noted the high circulation of weapons in the country, and of the total number of murders, which is 6,012, were perpetrated with the use of firearms. In other news, in Argentina, the immediate arrest of businessman Mauricio Novelli and Manuel Terrones Godoy was requested in connection with the investigation into the Libra crypto scam. The request comes after the discovery of million-dollar transactions between their accounts and those of Hayden Davis, the creator of the token and an associate of President Javier Milei. The request was submitted by cryptocurrency expert Martín Romeo to Judge Marcelo Martínez de Giorgi, who is leading this investigation. And according to Romeo, the evidence indicates a clear traceability of the money from Davis' digital wallets to those of Novelli and Terrones Godoy. We have a second SUR break coming up. Before, we invite you to visit our Facebook page at teleSUR English. There you'll be able to watch our top stories, special live coverage and much more. Follow our page and activate the notification button to stay up to date on the world's most recent events. Final SUR break, but we'll be right back. Welcome back to From the South. The government of the United States shutdown in the country reached its 11th day, while the social and economic crisis facing federal workers worsens. Neither the executive nor the legislative branch has been able to respond to the growing demands of millions of workers who continue to not receive their salaries. On Tuesday, media outlets reported that members of the armed forces received incomplete payments despite the fact that their pay slips showed the correct amount. Also, several states have confirmed that food banks serving workers have been unable to restock, while the number of people seeking assistance continues to grow. Despite this tense situation, political negotiations remain stalled, and the confidence of military personnel and federal employees is being severely affected. The Panamanian Institute of Meteorology and Hydrology issued a hurricane watch due to the formation of tropical storm Melissa in the Caribbean Sea south of the Dominican Republic. The two-day measure comes in response to the forecast trajectory of the storm, which is expected to move toward the major Antilles, including the Dominican Republic, Cuba, Jamaica, Haiti, and Puerto Rico. Although Melissa is not expected to directly impact Panama, it is expected to generate significant rainfall and an increase in wind speeds. The Institute of Meteorology had previously issued a rainfall watch that was in effect until midnight on Tuesday. And in this context, also, on Tuesday, the government of the Dominican Republic ordered the total suspension of academic and work activities, both public and private, in several provinces of the country in the face of the imminent impact of Tropical Storm Melissa. The measure will take effect on Wednesday and continue through Thursday in the greater Santo Domingo area and the southern coast. The work suspension in the public sector applies directly to the provinces on the red alert, including San Cristobal, Azua, and Barahona, among others. Also, the Emergency Operations Center reported the activation of 1,455 shelters in 14 provinces under yellow alert, with a capacity for about 600,000 people, with special attention to vulnerable areas. Also, Tropical Storm Melissa is threatening to bring between 200 and 300 millimeters of rainfall and could become a hurricane over the weekend. The Israeli parliament just approved a plan for total control over the West Bank despite the agreement with the Palestinian resistance Hamas. The measure taken by the Zionist regime aims to formalize total control over Palestinian territories and consolidate military dominance in the enclave. Local lawyers and organizations describe the Israeli plan as a violation of international law and the principles of self-determination of the Palestinian people. Meanwhile, the Israeli army continues to confiscate land and expand illegal settlements in the occupied West Bank, in addition to continuing the illegal detention of Palestinian citizens as well. We stay on topic. On Wednesday in Gaza, dozens of people gathered in front of Nasser Hospital in the southern city of Khan Yunis for the burial of 54 unidentified Palestinians. These unidentified corpses are among the 195 bodies that the Zionist State of Israel has returned since the ceasefire agreement took effect. The Gaza's health ministry reported that some bodies showed signs of torture, beatings, handcuffing, and blindfolding, and requested an investigation to clarify the circumstances of the death. In this scenario, medical teams continue to examine the bodies received to document their condition and deliver them to the families. As part of the ceasefire agreement, Israel is expected to continue releasing detained Palestinians. And in the Netherlands, the International Court of Justice warns that Israel is illegally using hunger as a weapon of conflict in the Gaza Strip. The International Court concluded that Israel, as the occupying power, is obliged to ensure the basic needs of the population of the Gaza Strip, including essential supplies for their survival. According to the court, measures to create settlements for Israeli forces and forcibly transfer a population are illegal actions which Israel has continued to carry out during 2 years of massacre in Gaza. The court concluded on Wednesday that the Palestinian territory is insufficiently supplied due to extreme crisis. And foreign observers have outlined their expectations for China's new 5-year economic plan, which is currently being reviewed at the ongoing 4th plenary session of the 20th Communist Party of China (CPC) Central Committee, opened in Beijing on Monday. According to Pavel Troshilsky, head of the Center for Political Research of China and Contemporary Asia of the Russian Academy of Sciences, this plan represents a significant global economic improvement as China contributes a significant portion of global GDP to global economic development, and this GDP is reflected in an increase in the cost of production in each country. This event, which ends on October 23rd, represents a key point for China's social sustainability, the region's reciprocity agreements, and the Asian giant's projection to the international community. And after this information, we have come to the end of this news brief. Remember, you can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. Also join us on social media. We are on Facebook, X, Instagram, Telegram, and TikTok as well. For teleSUR English, I'm Alejandra Garcia. Thank you for watching.